So I want to share this passage of scripture with you. It's a story. It takes place several days after Jesus had died and Jesus had arose from the dead. And he went all the way back up to Galilee, which is about 90 miles away from the crucifixion in Jerusalem. So he meets the disciples, and especially Peter, and this conversation takes place between Peter and Jesus. And that's what the story is about. Okay. So it begins like this. When they finished eating, Jesus asked Simon Peter, "Simon, do you love me more than these?" And Simon replied, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep." And then a second time, he said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Simon said again, "Yes, Lord, you know I love you." Jesus said to him once more, "Take care of my sheep." And he asked a third time, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was very sad that Jesus asked him a third time, "Do you love me?" And he replied, "Lord, you know everything. You know I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep. I assure you that when you were younger, you tied your own belt and walked around wherever you wanted. When you grow older, you will stretch out your hands and another will tie your belt and lead you where you don't want to go." And he said this to show the kind of death that Peter would glorify God. And after this, he said to Peter, "Follow me." Now, I know that's kind of a strange story, but it all has to do with this idea of baptism. And I know the place where this story took place was in the Galilean Sea. It was right next to the sea, on the shore. And while they were there, this conversation between Peter and Jesus was kind of intense. What had happened was that Peter had said something to Jesus many weeks earlier. He said that he would never, ever deny Jesus, that he would always be loyal to Jesus. But the problem is that Peter didn't realize that he would be in a place where he could actually have his own life threatened. And so he denied knowing Jesus, not once, but 3 times. And in doing so, he ended up saying to Jesus, "I don't know you. I just don't know you. I don't know you." And that really disappointed Jesus, but it also made Peter feel really badly about himself. Now, how does this deal with, what does it have to do with baptism? Here's what it is. I want to tell you this little story. When I was a pastor years and years and years ago, there was this little boy named Jeremy. Jeremy was probably about 7 years of age, and he hated water. He did not like water whatsoever. He wouldn't even take a bath. I mean, it was that bad. He was afraid of it. He was afraid that somehow he would drown. So his mother and father, though, wanted him to get baptized in the worst way. And so Jeremy and I finally came to this agreement that if he'd let me put just a little bit of water on his head, then I would baptize him. And I promised Jeremy that I would buy him one of those super soakers, And Jeremy then, we would go outside, and then he could empty that whole thing onto me and get me wet. So that's what we did. And in fact, after that day, Jeremy looked at me and said, "This is the greatest day of my life." In fact, a lot of things happened that day. Jeremy was no longer afraid of water. It was really quite an extraordinary experience. And the other thing was, not only did he say it was a great day, he looked at me and he said, he had his little brother, I believe his little brother's name was Alex, and he said, "Can I get my little brother Alex advertised too?" I thought to myself, okay, that you didn't quite get what we were doing here, but and that's okay. I actually thought that his definition of baptism was maybe better than mine, that the idea of advertisement is not too far away from baptism in this respect. One of the reasons why we baptize in public is because it is a public profession that's being made. And in many ways, God is saying to us, and this is what we acknowledge more than anything else, when you're baptized, it's God's way of saying, "I choose you. I want you. You are my child. This is all about me embracing you. This is all about me saying to everyone else, this is my kid, this is my daughter, this is my son. I am going to be with you. And there's a passage in the Old Testament that says something I just love. I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you, plans for a future and a hope. I've got great things in mind for you, my friend. That's what we're doing here. And that's the most important acknowledgement that we make. It is that what God is doing. That's why we baptize children. Now, children, when they come, babies, they don't have much to offer. They've never been to Sunday school before, have they? They have never given a tithe or an offering or anything like that. They've never even been to Bible study. But the only thing they really have to offer is their diapers, their dirty diapers, right? But that doesn't matter, because what we're saying, more importantly, is not what the baby has to offer, not what we offer, but what God has offered us. We call that grace. Grace is this idea of love given to us before we even realize that we're being loved. And that's this wonderful idea of baptism, that this amazing God who made you has so much love for you that he wants you to be his kid. He wants you to have a fantastic future. He's got great things lined up for you. He's on your side. That's the first and foremost thing. The other thing that you need to understand is this. What did Peter do? Peter really messed up. Peter said to Jesus, yeah, I promise I will always, always be on your side. But then Peter turned his back on Jesus. Peter said, I don't even know you, Jesus. And he really messed up. He was absolutely ridden with guilt because of what he had done. But then Jesus came to him, and it was kind of unique, because Peter said to Jesus, I don't know you, I don't know you, I don't know you, 3 times. And then Jesus came back to Peter and said, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Remember what they were? Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? Well, Peter really felt badly about that, because he thought, well, Jesus is doubting that I love him, and I do love him. But really, it was Jesus' way of saying, Peter, I forgive you. This is a new start. This is a new day. This is a way of us putting the past in the past, and let's go forward from here. But it was even more than that. Jesus was enlisting Peter in a mission. The mission of Jesus Christ, the mission to go out and share this love that God has shared with you, with everyone around you. Filling their buckets with kindness, with love, that's exactly what you and I are asked to do. And so Jesus is doing this, and God is baptizing people. No matter what you have done in your past, it's really a way of saying, I'm going in a new direction. One of the cool things, by the way, about baptism in the first century church, you know what they did? They would dig a grave. And they would dig this grave of probably about 3 feet deep, and then they put water in it. And then people would actually go into the water, and they would be dunked under the water 3 times. And they would use, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and they would come out. Now, here's what was cool about that. Each person that was baptized, when they began, they faced the west. Now, the west is what? Where the sun goes down, right? So it's a way of saying, I'm facing the darkness, I'm facing my past, I'm facing all the things that I've done, all the things that I said, all the things that I really don't like what I've done or said. And now, what they would do is turn 180 degrees. And they would face east. They would face east. What happens in the east? Sun comes up. Sun comes up. It's a way of saying it's a new day, a new opportunity, a new start. Isn't that cool? Isn't that an amazing image? Going from one direction and saying, my life's now turned in another direction. I am now choosing Jesus. Not only has God chosen me, now I am affirming my choice of Jesus. That's what it means to be baptized as well. But finally, Being baptized means that you have a new identity. I'm not going to ask you, but does anyone have a tattoo here they're willing to show? Anybody have a tattoo? I will tell you, I don't have a tattoo. All of my children have tattoos. I've always wondered, why do people get tattoos? You ever ask yourself that question? Okay, it has to do with identity. It has a way of saying, this is who I am. This is where I've been. This is what's happened to me. You know, sometimes people put a picture of the people that they love on their arms, or sometimes on their chest or their backs, or sometimes they'll put something important in their life that's happened on their bodies. It's a way of identifying who they are and what has happened and gone before them. Just parents, this is for you. The Atlantic Journal said this. They said this about tattoos, that tattoos are a way of not only expressing your identity, but defining your identity. And it's a way of saying, hey friends, yes, I am this person. This is me. This is where I've been, and this is the kind of individual I've become. That's what happens in baptism. I know you don't see it. The water dries up, but God sees it. And God has said, now you're a new individual. You're not the same as you were before. You know what happens when you're new? You get new priorities. You do things differently. You come to worship like this rather than sleeping in, right? You also look at your past and say, that's not me anymore. I don't go out and carouse on Saturday nights anymore. Instead, I like to come to places like this. I like to be with healthy people that are happy, and people that are enriching themselves with good things. That's what it means to take on a new identity. So parents, I want to offer you this, that we do baptism for all people at all stages of life here at St. Paul. And we'd be honored if you would like for either Pastor Ann or I to officiate a baptism for you. Just let me know, just connect with me, and we'll certainly make that happen. But for those of you who have been baptized, I have something unique I want to offer to you. And everybody can participate. So, Pastor Ann gave us these neat little stones. You see those? And what happens is we did this at the first service. We passed around this little glass, and everybody took a stone. Now, what happens when you take the stone? You have to get your hand wet, right? But it was a way of remembering your baptism. Not just remembering your baptism, but affirming your baptism. Saying, God, I know you chose me, but I want you to know that I'm choosing you now too. It's kind of like marriage. You know, any parents, did you give something to your spouse yesterday? Did you give something like flowers or candy, or did you get anything special? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Because it was a way of saying, I still choose you. I still love you. I know maybe we've not always agreed, and maybe I've done some things that you're disappointed in, but it doesn't matter. I'm still here, and that decision that you and I made on the altar years ago, it still holds true. And I'm yours, baby. I always will be. That's what this act is about. Taking your hand, dipping it into the water, reaffirming this decision. Lord, just as you selected me, I am selecting you again. Just as you love me, I love you too. So I'm going to ask the band just to kind of close with some music. And as they're doing that, I'm going to literally pass this around. And I'd like you to take a stone and hold that, and remember your baptism. And affirm your commitment to Jesus as he has affirmed his commitment to you today.